This past week, the Pokemon world shook. Of course, we had the announcement of 2 new Pokemon games, Pokemon Let's Go and Pokemon Quest. And that alone was pretty monumental, with the prospect of another Pokemon game coming out in 2019 as well. It's a great time to be a Pokemon fan. But to top all this off, something else happened. And it was the leak of something quite awesome. An old Pokemon Gold demo that appeared to have been sourced from the Nintendo Space World Convention in 1997. And a dedicated team has been combing through it and discovering all sorts of amazing things. Now obviously, for those who watch this channel, you know I'm a huge nostalgia buff. I love rethinking the games of the past and present. But games from the 90s have a special place in my heart. The release of this demo shook me pretty hard because it made me realize how different everything could have been. Gen 2 of Pokemon was a huge deal because it was the first expansion off of the main series. We weren't familiar with the idea of more and more Pokemon games yet. We had our initial cast from the first games that we had fallen in love with, and from 1996 to 1999, many of us were ignorant to the idea that events like Nintendo Space World even took place. For me, it wasn't until advertisements appeared on TV that I realized new games were coming out. We didn't have Nintendo Power, and we didn't get the internet until around 1999. It's not like we just hopped on YouTube to watch announcement videos either. It was a different world back then. So that's why when this leak happened, it really got my head spinning. I dove into Pokemon Gold head first, ready to pick up where my last adventure on Pokemon Blue left off. But my adventure would have been completely different if I was shown this cast of starters. Chikorita obviously retained its normal look, but Totodile and Cyndaquil were something completely different. Flambear was a Pokemon in place of Cyndaquil, and it honestly looks like a cross between Charmander and Pikachu. The evolutions were pretty cool too, and the idea of a Fire Bear starter seems pretty neat. However, for me, the memories with Totodile are the ones that shook. I loved my Feraligatr to death, so having it replaced by something that almost looks like a Dragonair hybrid caught me pretty off guard. However, what's interesting to me is if they did proceed with this water Pokemon. Would Totodile, Croconaw, and Feraligatr go on to inspire different Pokemon in later generations? It does look like this Aquaria final evolution may have eventually inspired Primarina. But beyond the starters, we have so many pre-evolution Pokemon that never saw the light of day. Tangela had a pre-evolution called Tangle, and it also had an evolution called Gelonla. Vulpix has a baby version called Trifox, which I personally think is pretty darn cool. Pichu looked entirely different, almost as if it was plucked straight from the Kirby universe. It lacked an actual torso and was a circle with ears. Goldeen has an early evolution called Gulpy. Paris had a baby evolution from something called Para, which looks like an insect popping out of a mushroom. What I do find interesting is that Doduo had a baby form called Chix. Now what's bizarre and both sad about this is that one of these heads must die off during the evolution if you think about it. It goes from 3 heads to 2 heads and back to 3. I would really love to know what the Pokédex explanation to that is. We then get into cat territory with Meowsy, the pre-evolution to Meowth, which I absolutely love. It looks like this sleepy kitty is just dreaming of money. Also, because I am a cat fanatic, I'm going to squeeze a really cool dark type Pokemon in right here. Rinring and the evolution Bellboyant. It takes having a cat with a Jingle Bell collar to another level. But on that same front, I also think it's odd to have this combination too. You have a cat that is obviously dark type, meaning it often lurks in the shadows. Fixing a bell to it defeats the purpose of having a sneaky cat in the dark. It's an interesting choice though. There's still a slew of other baby Pokemon as well. Also, side note here, when scrolling through the Pokemon, I feel like I have to point out, just like many others have online, that Suicune's original form kind of looks like Nina Tucker from Fullmetal Alchemist, combined with a pony from My Little Pony. Absolutely terrifying. Anyways, now you've probably already seen a lot of videos already breaking down majority of the Pokemon leaked, so I'm not going to go through every single one. I highly recommend checking out the cutting room floor and the efforts of the team building up the discoveries from this version of the game. Oftentimes in the game design process, multiple revisions of things take place as the game is further developed. For those who watched my video about Super Mario 64's Lost Level, there were apparently tons of levels that were scrapped from the final build of the game, just due to space constraints. What's neat to think about is that even this Pokemon version we see here, this gold demo from an event, could also have had many versions before it. Pokemon that were cut from the game, or tweaked before this build even saw the light of day on the show floor. Pokemon could have been scrapped, repurposed, or simply put on hold for years until they found a place in future games. And I think that's pretty neat to think about. Some of your favorite Pokemon you enjoy today could have made it in earlier games, or were designed for earlier games, and years later were finally implemented. Stuff like this amazes me because it makes you wonder what could have been. From that point forward, the trading card game would have changed, and the anime's episodes would be entirely different if they focused on a specific Pokemon that never came to be. I mean, I would have loved for this Pokemon called Twins to have been a thing. Based on the proximity of the number that follows it, and the normal/dark matchup, it looks like it could have been a pre-evolution to Gearfrig, although that's just a far-fetched guess too. Overall though, every installment of Pokemon went through the same process. Pre-builds of the games exist somewhere out there, and the Pokemon within would probably be baffling to us if we ever saw them in action within the game. I highly recommend you look into the full breakdown of the leak's release because there's tons of amazing stuff to be combed through. It's definitely a nostalgia bomb too, and I had a blast going through it. But now that I shared this, I'd love to know your thoughts. Favorite Pokemon in the leak? Any of the Pokemon within remind you of more recent Pokemon? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And with that, thank you for tuning into this Pokemon What If. Perhaps you'll enjoy some of these other videos. Thanks for watching, guys and gals, and until my next video, cheers.